So someone wanted to know what is the differential other than pituitary adenoma for the bitemporal hemianopsia. And when you have a bitemporal hemianopsia, that means it's the nasal crossing fiber that's being affected. And as you know, the crossing fiber from each nasal half crosses in the chiasm. And so lesions at the chiasm produce the bitemporal hemianopsia. And so it's really not a matter of bitemporal hemianopsia equals pituitary adenoma. It does not. Bitemporal hemianopsia equals a localization, which is the chiasm. However, there are things you need to know other than pituitary adenoma, even though the pituitary adenoma is the most common compressive lesion causing the bitemporal hemianopsia. The first thing is to make sure it's not a pseudo bitemporal hemianopsia. And a pseudo bitemporal hemianopsia usually drifts across the vertical meridian. It looks like it's bitemporal, but it's not. And the most common causes of that are like things that produce something wrong with the disc. So like a tilted optic nerve can produce a pseudo bitemporal that drifts across the meridian, or optic nerve hypoplasia. And so you need to make sure it's a real, not a pseudo bitemporal hemianopsia. Once you've decided it's real, this is a very unusual field to be non-organic. So no, it's hard to make a bitemporal hemianopsia unless you know what this anatomy is. And because patients don't normally know, they don't usually fake this. You need to know that if you're compressing from below, it produces the field defect superiorly. So this is the atypical bitemporal hemianopsia denser superiorly from a optic chiasm compression from the pituitary adenoma. But if the compression is from above, then you might get a bitemporal hemianopsia that's denser inferiorly. So this is going to be much more compatible with a craniopharyngioma or a suprasellar meningioma pressing on the bitemporal. So the other thing you need to know is the list is different in a kid than an adult. So in an adult, of course, the big four are pituitary adenoma, craniopharyngioma, meningioma, suprasellar aneurysm, and perhaps dysgerminoma. But in a kid, it's going to be more likely to be optic nerve glioma than meningioma. So we would take meningioma off and put in glioma. Much more likely to be dysgerminoma. Pituitary adenoma, however, and craniopharyngioma stay on both lists, and the aneurysm is way less likely in a kid. So it depends on whether you're a kid or an adult. In addition, it doesn't have to be a compressive lesion. It could be an inflammatory lesion right there. That thing is called chiasmitis. And chiasmitis is a very uncommon finding in multiple sclerosis. Once you see chiasmitis, you really should be thinking about NMO spectrum disorder. And of course, its cousin MOG. But chiasmitis can occur in MS. It's just a very uncommon presentation, which is normally optic neuritis. So the bitemporal hemianopsia is a localizing finding to the chiasm. Make sure it's not pseudo bitemporal. If it's real, you need an MRI to look at the chiasm. And if it's denser superiorly, pituitary adenoma, inferiorly craniopharyngioma, and think about the age when you're making the differential.